Chris, you ready?
Yep,
You hear me?
I do.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Franklin Planning Board, January 27th, 2025 meeting. This meeting is audio and video recorded. It's also on Zoom, and the Zoom calling number is 312-626-6799 with a meeting number of 948-7766-3615. I just want to let everybody know Chris is remote tonight, but he's in Zoom. So we'll take general business first. It's an 81P for 731 King Street. Amy, if I could go to you, I think this is just a quick separation, if I believe.
Yep, so this is to create one buildable lot on King Street, 731 King Street. There is an existing lot there, so they're actually creating two lots, one with the house lot on it and two with the vacant land. It's located in the single-family 3 zoning district. The existing single-family house does comply with the setbacks by creating this lot.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any comments or questions? Make a motion to approve 81P for 731 King Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call vote. Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
Okay, next item of business would be for, this will be a review for 19 Dean Ave, which is a color schematic for the building. If I could go to Amy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, planning board approved the special permit and site plan application on December 9th, 2024. And one of the conditions that they stated was they wanted to see the color renderings for the building, because at the time the applicant did not have that. They have now since submitted the color renderings to the planning board. Design review committee has recommended the colors that they proposed.
Do we have a list of the colors themselves?
I'm actually going to refer to the applicants online. I'm sorry, I didn't have the printout. If David would like to chime in,
Just want to make sure we have it
and just,
before we-
there were two Benjamin Moore colors that were like a cream and another color. Are you there, David?
Hi, yes, hello, how are you?
Good.
So I have two colors, they're both Benjamin Moore, Prentice Cream and Coffee House Tan.
Okay, and the trim, it's going to be white. Dave?
Yeah.
Do you know the trim color?
Yeah. Yes, white, I'm sorry.
It's going to be regular white, okay.
Can I just add to that
Yep.
through the chair? I just want a clarification because the exterior materials legend on the drawings identify siding, lap siding, but that's light tan. I'm just saying,
Yes.
I'm not seeing, no, but that's identified as the shakes, darker tan wood grade impression texture. So I just want clarification on the exact material. I believe we also asked for physical samples of the materials.
Yep.
Right? Did those go to the design review commission where those presented the actual physical material samples?
Excuse me. I can answer that. They were not presented to the design review.
So design review did recommend it, but did request the materials be provided, but they already recommended the colors.
Sure, I
and
guess
sizes.
I'm seeing a little bit of a conflict if what's on here is wood and I'm assuming vinyl siding or similar versus you're giving me paint color names, which typically are not the exact names of those materials. So I just want clarification I'm okay approving. I mean,
Yeah, hi,
personally-
Erin Jariff, owner applicant. We were told that I had asked specifically if I was able to send links of the colors. Obviously, the construction budget isn't done, so we haven't done any of the exact materials, but the colors I sent over in a Benjamin Moore palette, and it's, my understanding is that will be the color of the siding will be a light tan, and then the darker shade will be a very slightly darker coffee house tan with the shakes at the top.
Would the board like to see actual samples?
I would, just to keep it
I think if it's what we
on
asked
the up
for,
and up,
then,
yep.
and then the other,
Yeah, no, no, go.
because I'm feeling as though there's more than, there's light gray listed here, there's dark slate, light tan, darker tan,
Whitewash brick.
whitewash. There's a bunch of different colors here, so if those colors were forwarded through a link, then I'd love to see those, but otherwise, you've only listed coffee house tan and white, and what was the other one, I'm sorry?
Prentice cream.
Yeah, so I did send over the color swath. It was Prentice Cream in the white siding. I mean, I'm sorry, in the white trim.
All right, so we have Princess Cream, that's the light cream that you're referring
The
to?
light, yep,
Okay,
yep.
And then the
And coffee
tan
house tan.
is a darker
yes.
tan?
It's a pretty light tan. It's probably one shade darker than the Prentice Cream.
I'm just trying to match it up with what you have listed on your color scheme here. You
Yep.
have darker tan,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have light gray, which is your concrete, so that's pretty obvious. Dark slate on your door and window trim. Did you submit any
Yep.
coloring for that one?
Yeah, I told them it was gonna be black windows. Again, we haven't gotten to the point where we're going to get the exact materials. That's why I asked if I could send them the, like swabs of the colors we were gonna do.
I don't- did
And
you-
the color of the windows will be black.
So through the chair, we have not received, I'm sorry, I didn't receive the swabs, Aaron. If that's something the board would like to see, and if they can be sent over, all the swab, I know I
Is
got an
it-
email.
Is this Amy?
Yes, it is.
Oh, hi, Amy. Yes. Yeah, so I sent that last Thursday because I wanted to make sure if there was anything else you guys wanted to see, I could send the links over.
So did you send a swab, or did you send a link?
I sent the link to the Benjamin Moore swabs that were, I mean, with the colors that we wanted to use.
And you sent them to Amy's email?
To Amy Love, yeah.
I don't recall seeing them. I can look if it's just a link. If you want to see a link.
Yeah, I could forward, yeah, I
Or
could
you
forward
want
it
an
to you
actual
right now.
swab. I think the board should determine if they want an actual swab or if a link it says factory.
I mean,
I feel more comfortable.
personally, especially because we've had this issue in the past with white trim not being white, I would like to see physical material samples. I'm okay approving upon seeing the samples, but personally, that's my opinion.
That samples, but also delineating on the drawing what colors what.
Yeah.
Shake, siding, window trim itself, et cetera. And then that way there, it's all cut and dry and there's no questions. Okay,
Which is what I think the direction we gave previously
Yeah.
was.
so what's the board's feeling, Jay and Mark and Chris, what are your thoughts?
I was deferring to Chris and Zoom.
Chris, your thoughts?
Oh, I mean, the colors sound great. I think the only other question I had on all of that was the screened fencing that's noted. Is that gonna be painted, or is that just gonna be a natural color of whatever the screen fencing is that's shown on the front and rear and side? Sorry, side and rear.
I mean, it's just gonna be the darker fencing to go along with the color scheme.
Okay, and the brick will
Gray,
be
black,
painted?
or,
Black, you said? Okay. And will the brick be painted, or is it gonna be a natural white stone, like the Birchwood building, I guess?
you know, so for that exact, we were thinking to do, it's called the City Square brick. It's less white than the Birchwood. It's definitely more reddish. City Square brick, I think that's.
Okay.
Yeah, I do want-
All right, so.
That was everything for me, Greg. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jay?
I just want to make sure we rectify exactly what's going on here, so there's no confusion, because it seems
Yep.
like there's a fair bit of confusion right now.
So
That's my only
basically,
request.
yeah, I'm gonna recommend that we get samples, colors delineated on the building, what color's going where, color the brick, the trim, put it on the drawings, and then get us samples. Then there's no questions. So I'm gonna make a motion to,
Chairman, sorry, can I ask one question? Is that something provided that the colors are delineated based upon what they have on their chart here? Is that something?
So I had asked the review board if I could send over, like, if it could just be links or whatever, and they said yes. And then I kept asking Amy, like, hey, is there anything else I need for this? Like, and I wanted to make sure that we had everything that the board wanted, so I had asked several times what that would be, and I hadn't heard back, so I was under my impression that what I had sent over last week would suffice.
Yep, so I was trying to ask that question right now, so let me finish my thought here. Is what we're requesting something that we can say, you know, based upon this legend that has been provided, that as long as the clarification is given to Amy, that Amy can make a decision based upon the drawing and the rendering here that is cream colored with the white trim and black around some of the windows? Is it possible that we say, you know, in theory, what you're presenting here looks great and the color scheme looks good, and provided the colors match up with what you're saying and Amy confirms, can she, instead of waiting another 2 weeks so they can move forward,
Yeah,
just think that, can we give her the okay to okay the colors, provided that they match up with what is depicted here, and then they point to exactly where it's gonna be, if you can just give a check
I
mark.
can look at it with you
Yep.
too if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah,
Yeah.
defer to.
I could actually, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, this is general business. It could be seen again in 2 weeks under general business, but
Rather
if you
not
don't
have to
want
leave them
to, that's fine. We can definitely take a look at it, and I'll also share it with Maxine, who assists the design review commission, so she could have a look at it too and share it with design
I think
review.
between the three of you guys,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman here, Amy, Maxine, you guys can make a logical deduction as to what they're pointing at, and if she can
Mhm.
provide directly, I'm sorry, your name shows up with David on the screen, what was your name again?
Erin Jerf.
Erin, if you could work with Amy and Maxine, and we'll loop in Greg here just to confirm that we're okay and all on the same page with what you're presenting on the legend and your rendering that's colored, then I think you can get an administrative okay from all of us. here on the
Okay,
board
thank you.
tonight. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It makes sense, thank you.
So,
So,
make
make a-
a motion to recommend approval upon confirmation from the town planner and Maxine, as well as Greg, that the colors match with what is shown on the rendering,
With samples.
with samples, sorry.
Okay.
second,
All in favor?
roll call,
Yep.
vote. Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
One quick comment. We just didn't mention the garage door, just making sure that it's the same as, I'm assuming, the window trim.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, great. Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes,
Jen Williams. Yes.
thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Next item of business would be just the approval of the meeting minutes from December 9th, 2024. Does anybody have any additions, any deletions? If not, make a motion to approve meeting minutes from December 9th, 2024. Do I hear a second?
Can we roll in December
Yep.
16th, so we don't
Okay.
have to do two
Sure.
roll calls?
Yep. So
Thank
we'll do, also, do we have any changes with December 16th, 2024? Meeting minutes, additions and or deletions? No?
No.
Okay, roll call.
Uh,
Make a motion to approve meeting minutes? from
Second.
December 9th and 16th?
Second, roll call vote. Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. All right. Next big agenda meeting would be presentation of the master plan. If you guys want to just approach
Good evening.
Mike
Good evening.
and
Jen, I'm glad you feel my pain with the being a clerk and having to do things like that. Remote.
we waive
You love it,
readings a
Glenn.
lot.
It's really nice of you, Glenn.
I feel it. So, good evening, sir, Mr. Chairman, planning board members. Nice to see you. My name is Glenn Jones, Councilor Glenn Jones. I'm the chairman of the Master Plan Update Committee. We have a short little presentation we'd like to go through with you tonight. I do want to just try to get these slides up here really quick for you. So I think the first obvious thing to point out before I move on to my presentation, Mr. Chairman and the Planning Board, is I hope everyone has had an opportunity to see the town of Franklin's handy dandy new little website here. Things have been upgraded. It looks really cool. I'm very pleased with the results. One of the things I want to point out about the master plan in particular is if you are searching for the new master plan, if you go under boards and committees, right smack dab in the middle of the town's website, get the mic over here. So, Chelsea, would you like a microphone? If you look under the town's website, under boards and committees, one of the links, right smack dab, also in the middle at the bottom, is called the Master Plan Update Committee. And over here on the, to the left, under presentation, you'll see a PDF that's so eloquently called the final report. And if you click on that link, it will open up and take you to what is the 295-page document that has been generated on behalf of the Master Plan Update Committee. If it looks, there it goes. It's so big.
You should have taken half the pictures out, Sid.
I know. Well, we had to try to beat the 2013
Yeah.
document, but
Which would be by 5 pages.
yeah, by 5 pages. Only because we had a couple blank pages thrown in there, so which is a good
So
thing.
you want them.
Okay. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right. So as I patiently wait for this to load, let me bring up the presentation. Acknowledgements. It is a big document.
Yeah, it is.
5, 4, I got 5 or 6, 3, 2.
Google, upgrade the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you know, I think it's the town's website. It's the town's website. There it is.
Yay.
Big success. So you will find this under the Master Plan Update Committee's link on the left under PDF. What the beauty is of having a PDF version is it's a completely searchable document. So if anybody has anything specific that they're looking for, they can always type Control F and type it in. All right, let's take it to my presentation. All right. So, good evening, everybody. I'd like to introduce you to the Franklin Master Plan. The first thing I'd like to do is talk about what my talking points for tonight will be. I'm gonna do a little bit of acknowledgement of the members and individuals who have been key players in making the 2025 Master Plan a huge success. A quick introduction and talk a little bit about community engagement. I have the mission statement posted and talk a little bit about the vision of the community, as well as have the subcommittees come up and discuss the master plan goals. At the end, we will be getting into the implementation plan. So first off, I would like to thank all of those who have helped Franklin develop the 2025 master plan. This plan is vital to the community's health, well-being, and growth, providing clarity, a vision, and a comprehensive approach for addressing all areas of the community's development. Some very important people who have played a huge role in this. The 3 town council members, myself as the chair, Vice Chair Kobe Frangillo, Clerk Mel Hamlin. Planning board members, Jen Williams, Rick Power, who's also with us today, representing the Conservation Commission, Meg Hagan, from the Zoning Board of Appeals, Bruce Hunchard, and our wonderful citizen representation, Aaron Gallagher, Eric Stelzer, Gino Carlucci, Janelle Lang, and Joe Halligan, and Mr. Kenneth Elmore. I truly, truly want to take from the bottom of my heart and thank all of these individuals who took countless amount of time and hours from June 7th of 2023, which was our first official meeting of the Master Plan Update Committee, and thank them for all the hours and time and effort, because it was challenging at times to meet at various days and times to try to get this information complete, and I appreciate them for that. This plan would not have been possible without the assistance and guidance of the Franklin Department of Planning and Community Development, who provided valuable input, aid, technical assistance to this project. And in addition, all employees and departments in Franklin offered keen insight and information that informed us on the decision-making for the Master Plan Update Committee. From the Planning and Department of Planning and Community Development, Brian Taberner, the director, and of course, our illustrious town planner, Amy Love. We did have a couple consulting firms help us with this during the duration of this. They were key individuals who really truly brought some outside help on how we would ultimately craft this document. First off, Jill Slankus from Barrett Group, and Jeff, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, Max Ducis from Beta. They were our consultants on this. Quick introduction, quick note. I just gotta grab my water. The Master Plan Committee held over 27 public meetings as a group, and with additionally 60 public meetings, working sessions within the subcommittees. There were a whole variety of community engagement efforts. Everything from informational interviews to a bicycle tour to taking a nice long walk down the Snet Trail. We had an awesome library open house. We had a public survey. We also had in March an open house event at Dean College, which was well attended, considering the fact that the weather in that time of the year was really quite cold, and we had almost 106 or 110 people show up for that event. We've also done various public presentations over the past 2 years for various reasons to discuss and get people's input. So, quick thing. In the spring of 2023, the town of Franklin started updating its 10-year master plan. The process included reviewing the 2013 master plan to see which policies and strategies are still relevant and which have been completed. The 2024 updated master plan, or 2025 master plan, incorporates insights from the recent town planning efforts, including open space and recreation plan, housing production plan, and available transportation data. This 13-member volunteer master plan committee led the planning process, supported the town of Franklin Planning and Community Development staff. The town and the master plan committee carried out public engagement and outreach with support from the consulting team. The consulting team developed a chapter on each of the 9 elements that's required by General Law Chapter 41, Section 81D of the Massachusetts laws, as well as an additional chapter on sustainability. This plan also includes a chapter on key planning and opportunities drawing from research, community vision, stakeholders consultations, and an insight from town staff, the master plan committee, and local officials. The master plan update process included a thorough review of the implementation program in the 2013 master plan and identified and completed actions, ongoing initiatives, and actions not taken by the town. The goal was to determine the relevance of any unaddressed actions, identify barriers to the relevant actions, and find strategies to reduce or remove those barriers. New recommendations were also developed based on key issues and consultation with the master plan committee and the town staff. So our revision, which we worked very hard to craft at the beginning, is the vision of Franklin is to be a vibrant, inclusive, pluralistic, innovative, and sustainable community. Now, here's the mission statement for the master plan. I'm going to negate reading the whole master plan, but I did want to point out to you that we had guidance during this whole process, and it was based on our ultimate mission statement. So there were 6 key pillars or overarching goals that the master plan had to work with. And in no particular order, they were the housing diversity, complete neighborhoods, neighborhood connectivity, vibrant downtown, natural historic conservation and accessibility, and resource efficiencies. The master plan goals are the objectives that a community aims to achieve through implementation of a master plan. The goals are typically broad and long-term in nature, and they guide the implementation process of the policies and strategies that will help us achieve those. Now, of the countless goals that are in the master plan, they are, for all intents and purposes, intended to carry various lengths. It could be short-term, medium-term, or even long-term goals. Some of these goals, like many of the goals that you might find in the 2013 master plan, may or may not even be achievable. One of the interesting points that came up during the last master plan meeting is we don't know where we're going to be 5, 10, 15 years from now, and how our future might affect ultimately what our master goals are. So the main master goal plans goals that we went off of were economic development, housing, land use, natural, cultural, and historic resources, open space and recreation, community services and facilities, and traffic circulation, and of course, sustainability. Now, any goal being something that can be timely, it's achievable, it's relevant, we're going to do some education and work together on. So the Franklin Master Plan Committee, when in the process of establishing the rules behind how we are to govern creating this document, we best thought it suitable to create subcommittees to meet those goals. So the Franklin Master Plan Committee consisted of 13 volunteer members, including a chair and a vice chair. The committee members also took on roles as part of subcommittees that focused on the major topics. The major topics and subcommittee names were housing and economic development, community services, facilities and circulation, open space and recreation, natural, cultural, and historic resources. We actually shortened that one to OSR and NCHR for that purpose. And land use and zoning and sustainability. So what I'm going to do now is take the opportunity to go through all of the various subcommittees, introduce you the chairs and the members of those particular subcommittees who really spent, and I just kind of want to stress this point before I move on any further, who spent countless hours of their own time on off nights from the regular master plan meetings to ultimately hash out many of the goals and receive much of the public input that went into these goals that were specific to these content areas. The first member of the Housing and Economic Development Subcommittee was Eric Stelzer. He was the co-chair with Rick Power. Eric?
Great. Yeah, thanks. Eric Stelzer, co-chair of the Housing and Economic Development Subcommittee, and thank you, Glenn, for all your work as well to bring this to fruition. Why don't we go to the, as far as the members of the subcommittee, they're listed here: Rick Powers, Joe Halligan, Kofi Frangillo, and Bruce Hunchard. We'll go to the next slide. I'll summarize these slides and what we were looking at and what we were accomplishing. As Glenn noted, we had a lot of public input throughout this entire process. And as you would expect for a topic such as housing, there was a very healthy dialogue that we had around that. And the key things that we kept hearing about it is cost, how expensive it is to live within our community. We're hearing a lot about the availability of the stock and what's happening there. We're hearing about the desires and the need to protect our natural resources in our community. And through that listening sessions that we had, that all helped to drive some of it. Why don't we go to the next slide? And one of the key things that we were hearing consistently was about the diversity stock of our housing and how we needed to look to expand that. And so we have put in a series of recommendations around that housing diversity. And we were really looking at how do we right-size those for our communities. We've heard a lot of concern about the apartment complexes that are being built across our community. And so it was we were really conscious about the words we were choosing to put in here and those recommendations to make sure that it was fit for our community for the size of development that we're looking for. Why don't we go to the next slide? Economic development. We have something that a lot of communities wish they had. We have a great downtown. There's elements of it that are really thriving. There's elements of it that need a little bit of attention to. And we really paid attention to that as a cornerstone for our economic development pieces and what we can do to really bolster our community, make the downtown area more accessible for people to come down, visit the establishments that are there. We also were really looking forward to the future economic opportunities too. Where else can we expand the development for economic opportunities within our community? What about the future climate corridor initiatives that are happening at a state level, and how can we here in Franklin really take advantage of those opportunities? We were also thinking a lot about the tourism opportunities. You might think, Franklin, who's going to come and visit us here? But I think there's a great opportunity with like the Children's Museum here in Franklin that can bring opportunities to bring people into our community. The farmers market activities that we have. How can we work to get that word and that message out there about these elements of our community to bring in the dollars into our community? We'll go to the next slide. So that's all at the heart of some of the elements that we were looking at for the discussions and the implementation goals into that. And with that, I think I will turn it over to Janelle. We'll go to the next slide. I think I summarized. We'll go over to Janelle Lang, who will give a little bit more presentation on the land use side. Thanks.
Good evening. All right, I had the privilege of chairing the Land Use and Zoning Subcommittee along with Gino Carlucci, Aaron Gallagher, Joe Halligan, Bruce Hunchard, and Jennifer Williams on the Planning Board. We met quite a bit. You can go to the next slide. As a group to take what we were hearing from the community members and at our public engagement thinking through what we know that were opportunities and challenges in the town, and to think about how we may use this master plan to define smart development for the future of Franklin. Really thinking through what does growth and change mean for the future of Franklin? We don't want to be stagnant, so how can we promote smart redevelopment in the areas that can help Franklin thrive? And we really wanted to use the land use and zoning element of this master plan to set the foundation to help all of the other goals from the other subcommittees and elements be able to be realized. So some of the goals that we set forth that we saw could really help Franklin get to where the vision was leading is to preserve and enhance existing unprotected natural and open resources, to encourage development of diverse housing options in areas of town where property is underutilized or needs redevelopment, not in forested areas, but maybe there are abandoned areas that could use that focus, and along where public transit is available. To promote mixed-use development in appropriate areas, and we define ways, what does mixed-use development really mean for the town of Franklin? To encourage expansion and retention of current businesses and attraction of new businesses in the appropriate locations. And so that gets outlined in more detail in the master plan. To provide guidelines on Franklin character and develop a more clearly defined review process. What does Franklin character mean? And so this was what we heard a lot from the town as we were developing the vision. and to make the permitting process more transparent, streamlined, and in alignment with overarching town goals. And this is a goal to consider. Process improvement is a good thing, and over the next 10 years, maybe we can shift ways to make redevelopment in desirable ways more streamlined. All right, I would like to next introduce the Chair of Open Space and Resource and Natural, Cultural, and Historic Resources, Megan Hagan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Janelle. So I'm Meg Hagan. I'm the chair of the Open Space and Recreation and Natural, Cultural, and Historic Resources Subcommittee. On my subcommittee was Glenn Jones, Mel Hamplin, and Rick Power as well. So again, with all the other subcommittees, we had the opportunity to get some great feedback from a large range of community members who were able to really help us highlight the importance of our resources within the town of Franklin, not only our open space and recreation resources, but the wide breadth of natural, cultural, and historic resources that we have and want to protect for the town of Franklin. Next slide, please. So as our name depicts, there's quite a lot to cover in this, so I'm just going to do a brief summary of what we're really looking at here. So we want to make sure that through these goals, we're protecting and preserving all our natural, cultural, and historic resources, but while also planning for appropriate growth of the future of Franklin. So protecting those resources really includes identifying the current resources that we have in town and setting exact plans on what to prioritize for actually preserving. A lot of that includes advocacy for protection of these resources through the town. A big part that we focused on within this master plan that wasn't a big part of the last master plan is adding a lot about art and culture resources and the ability to increase promotion of and the quality arts and cultural resources for the town of Franklin. And I think to the next slide too. Thanks, Glenn. So this last one for us was something that really came up with the town. And again, as Janelle said, looking at sustainable development and low impact design techniques to preserve and protect our natural resources, both cultural, historic, and natural resources in town. So looking at the future growth of the town while preserving our resources. So moving on to our open space and recreation. I can go right to that next slide, Glenn. So for open space and recreation, a lot of what we're looking at in these goals that we're looking at is providing education and public awareness for our open space and recreation resources. Things such as looking at improved public awareness, improved and increased signage throughout the town, and increased access to resources on our website for the town to be able to provide easier access for people to all our open spaces and recreational resources. A large thing that came up through this process is looking at the inclusivity and accessibility of all of our open spaces within the town of Franklin. So providing opportunities for that in passive and active recreation opportunities that are both inclusive and accessible. And things that fall under this are things like looking at the newly acquired resources of Maple Hill and Schmidt Farm and planning for those parcels, which is a huge thing that came as feedback during this process. And next slide, Glenn, too, please. And again, looking at the sustainability of how we develop these new spaces and redesign spaces that we have in town, looking at different public parks and playgrounds. And lastly, just looking at finding the funding resources to bring all of these things to fruition. And that is it from me. I'd like to hand over to Kobe Frangillo for the community services, facilities, and circulation.
Friends, Kobe Frangillo was proud to chair the best committee, master plan committee, alongside Aaron and Janelle. From a high level, community facilities and services is a little different than some of the other ones. A lot of it is about, looking at what do we offer for services as a government, and how do we improve upon those? How do we make sure that they're sustainably funded? It was a lot of work with the department heads and a lot of the internal stakeholders, helping them or having them help us identify what are some key capital expenditures that are on the horizon. Go to the next slide. A lot of it is about, we talked about, how do we have enough resources to actually implement a lot of the plan, and then we kind of systematically looked at the various services being offered, particularly around infrastructure. Go to the next slide. We also talked a lot about the rotating sort of carousel of community facilities and how we can still take advantage of these assets and offer new services for our residents. We talked a lot about trash and recycling, waste services. We talked a lot about senior as well as just community spaces for services, a little about some art spaces, and a lot about how we improve the delivery of public education across the town. Next slide. And then the traffic and circulation piece was, one of the pillars, as mentioned before, was about neighborhood connectivity. This was thinking about how do we connect key places and allow multiple ways to move around Franklin to potentially divert some of our traffic from cars, and making sure that the traffic that is in cars is moving seamlessly throughout the town. We can go to the next slide. Part of that was putting a major focus on examining opportunities to improve both the pedestrian friendliness and the bikeability of the town. How do we look at key corridors that can be identified for bike infrastructure, and how do we think about walkability as not just improving the safety of walking in certain areas, but actually improving the attractiveness and usefulness of walking in different areas. And then the other key part of this was looking at public transportation, and you'll find that one of the key recommendations there is talking about, well, where could we return a fixed bus route, still supplement it with the micro transit, and then really think long-term about even more public transit opportunities, as well as some opportunities around how we better utilize the train stations, which are major assets to Franklin. In terms of roadways, we looked a lot at the data and a lot of public feedback on where are the key areas of concern with our roadways in terms of safety and usability, and identified some key expenditures there. And then finally, an extra focus around our downtown in this neighborhood concept. With that, I'll pass it to not the sustainability chair, who unfortunately couldn't join us, but Gino Carlucci was an asset this whole time, but to one of the sustainability members, Mel Hamblin.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening, everyone. Luckily, I think I had a really good committee to work with. Kobe and I fight about it all the time because I got to work with Gino Carlucci and Eric Stelzer. I'm Melanie Hamblin, for those of you who are lucky enough not to know me. But tonight, I get to be Gino. And so I'm pretty lucky to get to be Gino, because if you know him, he is brief and to the point, right? Everybody's like, yeah, okay. All right, so this is a new element in the master plan, so we got to really, working with Eric and Gino, we got to like think about what we need to do. How do we meet the goals of the state? How do we meet the goals of the community? We even added a couple of other public meetings at the farmers market. We collected a lot of information. Most of everything that we collected was really positive, and we got really great ideas of what the community wanted to see. And actually, the last go-around, we did not get any comments, so everybody really loved what we were doing. And here's our goals. All of our goals will end up with saving the town money, and we think that will help us also sustain our budget, which is really important. So you can go to the next slide, Glenn. Yeah, and so reduce waste, strengthen resilience, and let's get carbon neutral. So, and with that, I am going to hand it over to Amy, our wonderful town planner, who is going to take it to the next level. Ha!
Thank you. As everyone knows, Amy Love, the town planner. So Glenn gave me the task of doing the implementation program, the part of the end of the plan. The implementation is mainly all the goals and actions for the town. And most of this goes back to town staff. on looking at what improvements we can do for next 10, 15, 20 years. And a lot of that also will come back, determining what the staff decides on goes back to either a planning board or conservation or town council on making those final decisions. So this is really a big part of the plan that has all these subcommittees put together, and I definitely want to sit here and say thank you to everybody on the committee. They've definitely dedicated a lot of time and effort into this plan, and our consultant Jill here has also done a lot for us as well, getting this entire plan together. It's been over 18 months that the committee has worked together in putting all this together. So hopefully we can get some support from the planning board. I'm going to move it on to questions and answers.
Jill, no, let's introduce Jill.
I just did.
No, let's have her come up and talk.
Oh, you want to have Jill come up? Sure.
Please.
So this is Jill from Barrett Group.
I do want to mention, I know Amy touched upon it, Jill is the consultant I mentioned from the Barrett Group. They have played probably one of the most key parts in helping us formulate what you see in front of you today. Much of the text, much of the document that you see in front of you is a lot of the hard work of this group right here, where they literally, she wrote the document, she put it all together, she helped us formulate a plan and address many of these issues. So they were a key player, and I want to introduce Jill and talk a little bit about your role.
Sure.
Good evening. Well, I'll try and keep this brief. On behalf of myself, thank you. My colleague Judy Barrett and Jeff Maxtudis from Beta on our consultant team, I just wanted to commend the Master Plan Committee and town staff on their work on this project. I've kept Judy apprised of what was going on every step of the way, even though I had the great pleasure to be more of the lead on the project. And she was saying today that a credit to everybody, the success is this sort of rare combination that you were able to pull off with very engaged volunteer members who also were able to stay on task. Oftentimes, one of the two are tough for committees, and understandably so. So congrats to everybody. Also, in getting to know some of the committee members over the last 18 months, when this project is approved, the report is approved, the real work kind of begins right after it's approved, right, with the implementation plan. That's the real work. Everybody I know is more than engaged on just this committee, I've come to find out. The talents run deep, and they share them with the community in other ways. So I know they won't have free time. It'll just be spent in other ways. So other than that, I just think Franklin has been blessed with the volunteers, with the town staff. One thing that I noticed from the first time I came and did a site visit and did that initial meeting was Franklin's a very positive community, and I feel like the plan celebrated all that is going well, yet did not shy away from finding out where improvements could be made. And the committee really dug deep to incorporate that, and even though we can't predict the future, the goals and the vision are very adaptable to the specific ways that they might carry that out. Even though we have the actions in the table, it's a living document that I know town staff and the planning department will review on an annual basis, if not more regular, and make adjustments, as needed to the steps to achieve the goals. So thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you. It was an honor to be part of the process, and we'd love to work in Franklin again in the future.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you so much. So, Mr. Chairman and the planning board members, what I present to you tonight, this 295-page document, as our final report to you folks and to the town of Franklin, with one last final statement, and that is simply a huge thank you to the public, because they came out and they gave their input, and what you see presented to you tonight is ultimately a culmination of their thoughts, their feelings, and their visions and hopes for what they want the town of Franklin to look like in the next 10 years. Hopefully, much of what is in this plan is implemented. Hopefully, in the future, some of Some of the many goals that you see in here tonight will have hopefully funding to go behind them. Some of them are lofty goals, some of them are fairly easy to achieve. But ultimately, what you see in front of you tonight is the public's opinion on what they want this community to look like. So, with that, I'd be happy to take any questions for myself or for any one of the members of the Master Plan Update Committee.
I do appreciate all the hard work everybody put in. I know everybody did. I did it the last time, so I know what it takes. I was there on the last one, so.
Oh, I remember.
Do appreciate
I was there
it.
too.
Yeah, so I guess, we'll start with, Beth. Any comments or questions? I'm gonna tee you up.
I guess my first initial question is, you had the opportunity to invite us to give you comments.
Yes, ma'am.
A couple weeks ago, and I'm just curious, of any of those comments that the planning board had, were any changes made to any of the goals and objectives?
Yes,
as a result?
as requested. Those
Can you
changes,
just
as
give us an
they were
idea
so
of-
stated last week, including the downtown comments, that was rephrased to be a little bit more positive.
So in the
As well
housing-
as the by right portion for four families has been taken out.
In one location, but there's also other locations, which is still present, so.
Yes,
Yeah.
Eric, did you want to speak towards that?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, thank you very much for those comments that you did provide. And following that, we did have some discussions specifically about the movement of and the recommendation to have 4 family units as by right and single family 4. The recommendation there has struck the words by right so that the implementation goal is still seeking the increased density that is something that we were hearing from our community. But recognizing that it's also a conversation that's going to live on beyond this document. I'm certain that those conversations will come here to the planning board to look to implement. And lastly, I'll just touch on the economic development piece, since Glenn touched on that too, since that's in our section. And so we did relook at that, and it was rewritten specifically to call the attention to, rightly so, that there's so many great assets in our downtown that are existing in those businesses. And hopefully some of my comments there recognized hearing that perspective that was brought. And so those adjustments were made too.
Great, I appreciate that, thank
You're welcome.
you. When you had your numerous public hearings,
Yes.
or not public meetings, but
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain it, you talked about, what, 60 plus?
Yes.
Was
Yeah.
that your committee meetings, or was that with the general public?
There were 3 public input sessions, one of which was up in the training room, one of which was here in the council chambers, and we had actually another one at the library, as well as at Dean College. Those were all outreach type of presentations where we actually went out to the public. Like, for instance, over in Dean College, we had coins as one of the cool things that people could come in, and Bader and Barrett Group had put together a chart saying what of these 8 things do you see that if you had 6 coins, would you love to see your money go towards? And ultimately, a lot of people said housing, walkability, sidewalks were a big one, as well as facilities.
So in
Were also very
the
promising.
3 public outreach
Yep.
meetings you had, how many people would you say on average attended each of those?
The largest one was probably the Dean one, at roughly about 110 to 115 people.
Okay.
The other meetings probably averaged anywhere from about 6 to about a dozen.
And did you do any online surveys at all?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah, we did an online survey last year.
Okay, I think I remember
Yep.
seeing those comments, so I'm curious, because I feel as
The
though-
results are listed in the plan.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, now that you're saying that, I remember reading them.
Yep.
I feel as though some of the housing goals and some of the land use goals
Mhm.
are still not representative of a general feeling that we're allowing a lot of larger scale developments and then rezoning things to be as of right. I just really have a hard time, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, as a planner myself. I
Mhm.
know what's right and what is supposed to be done, but I
Mhm.
also feel as though we need to hear what our citizens are saying, so
Mhm.
there's two conflicting things going on in my head here.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of the goals and implementation items here are very aggressive and not necessarily representative of what the broader town wants. And 100 people showing up at a public hearing, applaud them, because that's great. But 100 people making input on something that has such a large impact to our community, to me, it's not a large enough representation of what's really happening in our community. I understand a lot of these goals and objectives. I support a lot of them, but I also don't support a lot of the ones that are being presented, unfortunately. I do know there was a lot of thought and a lot of time. Clearly, if you had 60 meetings between all you guys, that's a lot. I'm just disappointed to see some of the wording and some of these still remaining, that it's not more of a broad, let's talk about it more type situation, but rather blanket statements of, I'm just trying to find an example here, hold on one second. Somebody else want to talk while I'm finding my example? Okay, give me a second, hold on. I do see that you rename single family floor to general residential floor and allow for up to 4 family developments. I appreciate you taking out the by right on that one. I definitely do, and acknowledge that you've done that. But I think under land use, one of them was MBTA communities, which I've been to a lot of meetings in this town about MBTA communities. And one of your goals is determine if we want to exceed the expectations or something along that effect of MBTA communities. And from all the meetings I attended, clear answer is no. So I'm not sure why we have things like that. I think the determination and the density that we're allowing, we're already pretty close to it. So let's see. Then allowing for family, this is H21D, allow for the by right conversion of single-family homes to up to 4 units, provided no changes to the building exterior dimensions in our downtown and any future neighborhood overlay districts. I mean, any, who knows what the future holds? So to put the word any in there, it just, to me, it seems like anytime you have a goal or objective or an implementation item that says any future, you don't know what any future is. And I have a hard time supporting something that says any. That's just me. I don't like the word any, because you don't know what's going to happen. What else? Let's see. Sorry. Decrease minimum lot area, frontage, depth, and width in the downtown and any future neighborhood overlay district. Again, I think when we were at the meeting you had to allow us to provide you comments, I think we said that, your downtown and adjacent neighborhoods are the ones with the most tricky properties. And allowing decreases and things to that extent, and then saying, by right for some of these, it's just, I just can't support that, because I feel as though you're dealing with the worst of the worst properties that are left, and a little bit more oversight is needed. I guess, I can go on, but I'm not going to. I think you get the idea what I'm saying, and it's not to knock anyone's hard work. It's not to say that nobody went out and tried their best. It's not to say that the public didn't provide comments. But for me, the wording on a lot of these are not in a form that makes me comfortable.
Understood. I can appreciate that, and I do appreciate your remarks on that.
Thank you. Jay?
Oh, I'm up. All right, so thank you all for doing this. This is very important to the community. I'm a little bit more pro-density than Beth. It's one of the things that keeps our friendship alive and well. So that being said, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, it just seems like some of these things are going to be difficult to accomplish because they're contrary to one another, right? So like preserving open space inside of 495 and creating housing, those don't mesh. And I thought the other one that was just a good example was the 40Y district. That's a great idea. My neighborhood is full of starter homes. My neighborhood is also single family 4, which is now going to be full of potentially by right 4. So those are just kind of clashing. I just was kind of interested to see if there were discussions as about how to make those things.
Was that under land use or under housing?
I think those are in housing.
Under housing.
Yeah.
Eric, did you want to speak to?
Yeah, you're right. This is a challenge within our community, and as I noted from the beginning, you know, we did have healthy dialogue within it. And yes, maybe one event had 100 people, but we had good participation elsewhere in the community surveys. Each of us, as we're going out into the community, are also having our conversations that might not be through the formal process, but we were intentional to not just have public hearings. We know how difficult it is for people to speak up at public hearings or to show up in this type of a formal setting. So we intentionally had some informalness to it. To speak to the point of that tension between open space, I think you're right. It does come to density. And where is that density? And that's where I was speaking to. What is that right size of that density look like? Where do you put that density? What does that look like? And how does those housing fit within the characteristic of it? And so we have some recommendations in there as well about form-based code and looking at those opportunities so that we can fit the housing stock that's needed in order to help create opportunities for people that are younger to stay living within this community, opportunities for people that are older, that are aging out of their larger homes that they have, that want to stay in the community and be closer to the community services that we have. And so I think this is, to your point, it is visionary. It is a dynamic document that's going to be living on beyond this initial instance. There will be more conversations across the community as we look to engage on these items and look to implement it to see what's right for us.
I guess the only other comment that I would have, and this is something I've commented on several times over the course of multiple things that have come in front of us, from ADUs to everything else. But it feels like as our town's expanding and dealing with increased density, that's all kind of getting focused on the inside of town. And we get a lot of square area in town where there's not a lot of discussion about any sort of other density increases. And I'm not trying to create a system of have and have-nots, because I think we're in Franklin, and I have a wonderful neighborhood, so and I don't really care about density to a fair degree. But I do have some wonder about what that's going to be like where, I mean, I'm looking on the map right now.
Yep.
In our core, where we're talking about increasing all this density, is a very small area.
Yes.
In comparison to the rest of town. And it just seems like we could be doing more to kind of spread that out. I'm not sure how you do that. I think a lot of our zoning in this part of the state has been broken for several decades. We're looking at the sins of that. But that's just something that's always kind of given me pause and I've thought about a lot as to how that's actually going to happen in an equitable way.
To your point, Jay, kind of along the lines of a higher picture counselor's perspective on that one. Ultimately, what we're going to be looking at is, I don't know if it's 5 years, I don't know if it's 10 years, I don't know if it's 15 years, depending on how much of a continued attraction the town of Franklin is going to continue to be. I mean, having been named, you know, kind of one of the #1 places to live and raise a family multiple times, you know, you see that posted on real estate agency, you know, postings and websites, and people always want to come to Franklin. It's an extremely attractive place to come to. But it makes it particularly difficult to take the current housing stock in the densities that we have and kind of spread them out, mainly because of the way the town is already developed. You know, I mean, like for instance, the south of Franklin and the north of Franklin, you've got some fairly high lots, 2 acres, sometimes even 3 or multiple acre lots, that for all intents and purposes, more than likely are going to stay that way for at least another couple of decades until the property owners decide they want to subdivide or do something to make those lots smaller. So that kind of pushes us down more towards the center of the town, where for all intents and purposes, one of the biggest challenges that I've had over the past 15 years is trying to convince the property owners downtown to make those improvements. You know, we have a few key people, as you already know, like the development that's going in up off from Brad Chafee and those folks over there. That is great development. That's great to see that, those condos and that mixed use making its way downtown and seeing places that for all intents and purposes have been empty for 10 years, finally filling in with a business. So these things are starting to grow. We have some new housing across the street, but the location of the densities are for all intents and purposes sparse. Would they or could they make them into other parts of the community? Perhaps. But I think that's actually a discussion for future, when we actually kind of see how much more growth the community is going to take. Because it's hard to say. I mean, we have the soccer, the World Cup coming into town. We might get people from all over the world coming into our neighborhoods and say, wow, this is a great place, maybe I'll move here. But it could also be that doesn't take, and we kind of stick to what we have. So it's a tough call, because at the town council level, kind of thinking about, like for instance, Res 7, talking about higher density developments like the ones over by Cook's Farm, over by the golf course. That was kind of a specialty item at the time when we voted to approve that, because of its location. It's general location to the golf course. It being where it is just on Route 40, not necessarily kind of spread out into the more rural areas of the neighborhoods, just to kind of, you know, not allow that high densities to make their way into the rural neighborhoods. But I think, to your point, that may just be an inevitability, depending on how much of continued interest there is.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm getting at, is that development, there's another one on the north side of town, it's got all the horse names associated with it. I think our town needs more of that, and we need to find a way to make that happen in this case that we have.
Understood. And I don't disagree with you, it's just a matter of, you know, it's how do you do that when, you know, like, for instance, you know, you've got 5 or 6 different lots that make up, or maybe more, that make up the triangle of downtown, and trying to get those property owners to kind of all be on the same page, maybe combine lots to try to develop better portions of that would be keen, but so far, no one's bitten. So, and we can only go as far as the curb, and that's it. You know, it's private property. People got the right to do and develop their property as they so choose to within the zoning that we've developed. And you're right, it's frustrating.
Glenn?
Yes.
Can I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
add in?
Yep.
All right, thank you for your observations, Jay.
This is Janelle Langman, Land Use and Zoning.
Yeah, so on the Land Use and Zoning Subcommittee, we talked about where density could happen quite a bit. We looked at opportunities all through the town. We poured over the zoning maps and the aerial maps constantly. So one of the proposals we made is to encourage the town to think about ways to increase our commercial and industrial and existing commercial and industrial districts. So if those, perhaps all that parking's not needed, maybe those can become more dense in and of themselves, office parks and the like. And we identified different opportunity zones for potential neighborhood opportunities in near gateways of the town, like along Pond Street or Lincoln Street or Washington Street. So if there's pockets of areas that could be developed, we proposed looking at those. We talked about taking a look at the zone around Forge Park and thinking what that might be over the next 10 years. And we proposed a joint study with the town of Bellingham looking at the 140 stretch from Franklin into Bellingham. So these are some of the areas where we didn't want to just say, make downtown dense. We really looked at the whole town to think about how we can get to our goals.
Yep, thanks.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Councilor Jones mentioned at the beginning, it's a living, breathing document that's going to take us into the next 10 years. Is kind of like a guide piece as to hopefully what the town is looking for development. So I think keeping that in mind, I certainly agree with Beth's sentiments in regards to avoiding blanket statements or specificity around this shall or can or will be things that are done. I'd like to see as we continue to move forward, the control for the boards, planning board, zoning board, et cetera, having those control points to make sure that we don't have incongruous uses adjacent to each other in certain areas, whether it be downtown or outside of the downtown areas. I think it just kind of help maintain the character of the community while also supporting positive and smart growth is probably the best path forward. And I just wanted to say thank you to the Master Plan Committee for their time, effort, and energy they've spent over the last several months putting these together, having the meetings that they've had, and sharing their thoughts and opinions here with us tonight. But I think Beth and Jen and Greg did a great job at the last Master Plan meeting to share the concerns. I think that some of us or most of us had kind of expressed, and seeing some of those changes being implemented, or the majority of them, would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. Jen?
I thank you all for all of your comments. It has been over a year? It's been
it's almost 2 years.
It's been a long time. And it's been a great committee. So I fully support all the hard work that has been done to date. I do agree a little of those word nuances, like taking out something that's very prescriptive or sure to allow for flexibility. I mean, the good thing is that this is, everything that may come out of this is then going to go in front of, us or other voting bodies to ultimately be the ones who determine whether something changes in the future. I just hope that coming out of this, and this is more of a town council probably discussion, but since I have my soapbox right now.
That's fine.
Master plans, the goal of a master plan, or a master plan, is to look at everything holistically and do what we've done here, and come up with lists of goals and objectives that look at the whole town and the future of the town through a number of different lenses. I hope that this then gets translated into holistic approach to action rather than everything happening in different bubbles. I personally think that a logical next step in the near term would be to hire a consultant to do an actual energy and carbon and facilities master plan, rather than having a separate police study and having a separate redistricting study for the school that says this is what's going to happen with all these buildings, and doing a separate study for Davis Thayer, and nobody, one expert consultant is looking at all of these things and looking at how we can decarbonize the town through energy use and embodied carbon, and the long-term maintenance costs of all these buildings that are going to be sitting here. And oh, by the way, we have increases in density proposed as a result of this master plan. Oh, they're all happening south of the proposed redistricting line for school. So all those impacts to school population, the vast majority of them are going to impact the school at the south, not the school at the north. So how is that impacting the percentage of students that are attending each of those schools long term, so we don't have to redistrict again in 3 years? And I would like, I think it is in the best interest of the taxpayers to invest in a consultant for a couple $100,000, which seems like a lot of money up front, but it's going to save you that in just the one building that you're not spending a couple $100,000 after 3 years to just sit there that you don't know what you're going to do with. And so I just hope that it turns into holistic action in a way that, just as the master plan is trying to bring all of this together to achieve a unified vision for the town, we put our money where our mouth is to make that a reality in looking at all of our town-owned assets under one comprehensive study and physical determination of what the future of those physical assets will be moving forward. And looking at that in the way that it's going to impact the community for the next 10+ years.
Jen, I think you're right on the money. I really do. You're correct. This document is a tool for us. It is a tool for the planning department. It is a tool for the town council. I can't speak for the whole council, but, you know, current council, future councils, future planning boards, including yourselves, all have the opportunity, as well as the planning department in the community, to use this document as kind of a tool to help guide us. This is not a set in stone type of situation. But like many of the goals that the council puts together on an annual basis with the town administrator, this allows us just yet another opportunity to look at what the public has to say and what types of goals they want to see achieved. And we can actually take this document to the council, present it to the council, get the council's opinion on what some of the goals might be within this document that may or may not be achievable, and say, okay, can we put some funding behind this, in either, you know, in the near future or in the future when funding is available, to see what we can do to kind of get some of these action items done. And that's probably the biggest challenge with any master plan. You know, I would, and I know you yourself are well adept at master plans. I was speaking with a good friend of mine just yesterday, and he was talking about the Boston College master plan and how they had a lot of lofty goals to fit a lot of new things into what is, for all intents and purposes, a really small area. Because BC being stuck in Brookline, they're just on a corner of an area of Brookline that got overtaken by other larger developments. And it's really hard for them to expand out. And they had all these lofty goals in a master plan that was developed almost 10 years ago, but many of those things never came to fruition, even though the gentleman I was speaking to would be like, boy, it would have been nice if we had this. Yeah, it would. Just like there were things that were in the 2013 master plan that we looked back on and said, wow, we never really actually got to that. Because it was, times changed, goals changed, ideas changed. So there were even things in the old master plan that we just never got to. But at least will ultimately give us a working document to maybe set aside funding to see what we can do to come up with some of these actionable items. It's really just, since there's so much in the document, there's ultimately going to be kind of a, there will have to be an opportunity for either the council or a subcommittee of the council to kind of sit down and look at this as a way of what goals do we want to tackle? Short term, medium term, and long term. And that's really kind of, that's going to be the town council's purview.
Yeah, no, I understand. Thank you. But yeah, I appreciate everyone's comments and obviously support the hard work of the committee. Thank you.
And thank you, Jen, for all your hard work.
One of Jen's comments, I think it might be nice, I know it's too late probably to do, but maybe a goal or objective or implementation that our boards and committees have more joint meetings for collaboration. And I really feel that will solve a lot of, why did the planning board say this? Why is the town council doing that? What's going on with ZBA? Question mark. You know, it's just, I just feel like I know Jen and I, when we ran, we really wanted to see more collaboration, more discussions amongst boards and committees. And personally, the first time we've done that really is when you invited us to come comment on the master plan. And that's 3+ years later since we've been appointed or elected. So I just think that we as boards and committees, planning board too, CBA, Concom, we can all do better about trying to communicate with each other, because I don't know as though we do a great job with that. We kind of float around individually. So, yep.
You know, Beth, it's funny you say that, because along those lines, as you yourself hadn't been in the town planner previously and been in the town as long as you have, some of the biggest issues, like many issues in life, boil down to communication. You know, how do we effectively communicate an idea? How do we effectively communicate what needs to be communicated to the correct people in the right places who can actually make these changes?
Yep.
Because I think what's kind of a common statement that the public gets is, that's not my department. That's not my department. Okay, well, whose department is it? You know,
Same with boards, that's not.
who
my board.
exactly do I speak to? Is it the planning board? Is it the zoning board of appeals? Is it the town council? Is it, you know, is it the finance committee? Who is it that exactly we speak to? I do respect your opinion on that. Unfortunately, at this point, it's a little late for us to put it into the master plan, but along those lines, as a counselor to a fellow planning board member, I'm more than happy to work with you, being the former communication liaison, to see what we can do to maybe start incorporating better dialogue, so that we can actually find out, how does the planning board feel about this? How does, you know, how does the ZBA feel about these things?
Glenn, just kind of add on that.
By all
I feel
means.
as though it's a great opportunity for when you're talking about wanting to improve the permitting process.
Mhm.
I think that's really key, is that your staff, town staff, your boards, they're all interacting with each other, so you're not operating in a bubble every time you go to a different board. And then you hear that, oh, well, ZBA wanted that, okay, well, ZBA made that decision, and that's coming to the planning board, and the planning board's just learning for the first time that ZBA made a decision that impacts what they're doing.
Yep.
There needs to be more, so, that, I think, I don't know, I guess maybe a lost opportunity to include some goals like that, but, next time.
I will put that as one of my own personal goals from the
Great.
council's level.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
To see what we can do to incorporate those.
I have one more super minor thing. We just reinvented the entire town's brand and website. I'd love to see that incorporated in this report. I'm sure this is just a draft that was made before that was maybe
This-
rolled out, but like, I assume all that's gonna be updated to
It's been
reflect-
requested.
Okay, cool.
That was something I had requested a couple of weeks ago. They don't currently have artwork to support it, I've been told. So,
You do have a nice Ben Franklin logo
you don't
right there on the
mind.
front. It looks great.
yes.
They're rolling it out in like, so they're rolling it out in like the next 2 to 3 weeks to staff. So depending on, like, if we can get it incorporated, but they're not releasing it for, we don't have an exact date yet, but in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're gonna get a date is when it's actually gonna be rolled out. So,
Yep.
we can see.
And then,
What?
It's on the website already.
No, but there's gonna be guidelines. The guidelines
guidelines. I know the
to
guidelines.
put it on public documents and all that are coming out in the next 2
Yeah,
to 3 weeks.
that's right.
So,
And then, Mark, I'll go to you.
Thank you,
Questions,
Mr. Chairman.
comments?
Thank you all for putting in all your time for
Thank you.
dedication, and I know it's a thankless job.
I love it.
No,
I do. I won't lie to you, sir. I have enjoyed working with these folks to the utmost extent. It was a lot of fun. Life always has its challenges, but if you have fun doing it, and it's not work.
And it shows. I mean, a lot of people, my wife and I watched a lot of the meetings, and, but also being the kind of the new kid on the block, and kind of taking in this whole process, and I concur with all my members of the board here as far as their concerns. But one that affects probably on a personal note with me, living in this area of the town, is the mixed-use part of the bylaw. I think that needs to be kind of tweaked, where I think Greg mentioned in the meeting a couple of weeks ago with you all, that I think not having enough commercial space in some of these projects or developments, it does not, I think, entice businesses to come in. I think some of the square footage is limited.
Yeah.
And where we're trying to look for increasing pedestrian and bike travel, I think it kind of reduces that, whereas some areas only allow one parking space. And I mean, yes, it does entice people to walk. Franklin, unfortunately, right now still is a driving town. And I know we're trying to work towards getting that, and I think that's a great vision to have. But otherwise, I think that would be my only comment at this point that I would have, as far as.
I really truly appreciate your comment, and by the way, I love the fact that you're one of our new associate members of the planning board. I appreciate you stepping up in the capacity that you have to help these folks out. They do a great job, and I know you're
No,
gonna
and
do a great job.
I've learned a lot, and
I think, you know, it's funny, because I'm looking at the picture on the town's website here. One of the things that makes the town of Franklin so unique is the simple fact that we have such diversified neighborhoods, and we have such a diversified community. You know, one of the things that we spoke about at the town council meeting last week was the simple fact that many people seem to think that we're pushing housing, that we're trying to put 1,096, these are units that even the town planner had mentioned have been in the works for almost over 10 years and are just finally coming out of the ground. We certainly are not looking to fill every hole in the town of Franklin, which is why we bought, the town of Franklin purchased Schmidt's Farm as well as Maple Hill to preserve upwards of almost 200 acres of land for simply just open space and recreation. That actually helped us to minimize what could have been, for instance, up on Maple Hill, I think it was 56 units, Greg? Upwards of almost 56 units that could have knocked down all those trees and turned that neighborhood into yet another development that certainly, you know, might have benefited us from a housing stock perspective, but totally would have changed the whole character of that neighborhood up there, even more so than it already is. And that's the same thing with Schmidt's Farm. So our goal is to try to slow down that overgrowth and do some smart planning, so that ultimately the town doesn't become, we knock down every tree, even though we actually are an arbor town, and try to maintain the character of the town. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we face here, is how do we maintain the same kind of small town feel with the understanding that we are a city. We are the city known as a town. It's a challenge.
Well, good, Mark?
I'm good, thank you.
I guess, I mean, I concur with the rest of the board. I know Beth and I have been chatting quite a bit behind the scenes, and I totally agree on the open ends of what can be done and what couldn't be done. My biggest fear is, back in the 80s and 90s, this town of Franklin was growing 350 permits per year, the fastest growing community in the country. And we did it for year after year after year. And I was building back then, and I must say that all the lots we're seeing now are all the lots we didn't want to touch back then.
Yeah.
Irregularly shaped, water, ledge, abandoned homes, et cetera, et cetera. The growth is all the parcels that never got touched. All the outskirts got built. Everybody's house got built in the outskirts. You couldn't drive down a street without having 5 new subdivisions on the outskirts of the town. So, yes, there's growth, but the biggest thing I would promote right now is, and what we're trying to do, is controlled growth. It is, do it in a form and fashion that's best for the town, the residents. You want to maintain the value of the properties here too, because the town of Franklin has 2 train stops, okay? 2 off-ramps, 495, 2 industrial parks, water, sewer, the great school system, police department. We have everything that everybody wants.
And a good tax rate.
Yeah, they're gonna keep coming. I will guarantee you, we don't have to worry about keep coming. What we need to do is control what's coming in front of us, so we plan for the future from 10 to 15, 20, 30 years from now. Because we all want to make sure that we retain the value of our properties, and that's what it's all about. It's about keeping the town as a value, and you want to keep it as a small town. You don't want it to be blown up, become part of Framingham and some of the major metropolises around it, per se. You know, the other thing is, we're exactly 30 miles from Boston, Providence, and Worcester. We're a target. New England Telephone knew it back in the 50s. They put underground in downtown, knowing town of Franklin was going to get hit. So the most important thing that I see, and what we would like to do is the controlled growth and what's best for the town and the residents. You overexpand it, we're gonna build a brand-new school again. The school's actually, population's coming down.
Yeah,
A lot of
considerably.
big houses with 4 or 5 bedrooms have 1 or 2 kids in them, where they had 4 or 5 back then. So the kids are coming down and going to like the ADUs. We let the ADUs through, we thought it was a good thought. Talking to the building commissioner just the other day, and Beth and I, it was, I think it was 15 to 18 people inquiring already about ADUs. So the growth will come in that form and fashion too, and that'll keep the kids in town too, and that'll keep some of the adults coming back to town because their kids are here, so it's a vice versa. So you'll be able to feed off that for a little bit. So that's really the most important thing is a controlled growth moving forward, I believe. We want to maintain what we have. We don't want to lose control of it. And if we lose control of it, you're never going to get back. I will guarantee you that. So, I do appreciate everybody's time and effort from all the board members. Like I said, I did it on the last one. It takes a lot of time and effort.
Yes, it does.
You guys did a great job. It was, you beat us by 5 pages, but that's okay. But no, great job, and I thank Amy and the rest of the town committees and boards, and we'll move forward, so.
Mr. Chairman, just to point out that there was a question on the survey that said, what do you see as the top 3 focus areas facing Franklin? And the top one with 63.2% was managing growth and change. So I just pointing that out.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So do I hear a motion? Make a motion to
Recommend.
recommend, yep, to town council?
Second?
No, it's actually an approval by the planning
You
board.
guys adopted.
You're right.
You guys adopt the
Yep.
master plan.
Yep.
I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the master plan.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call vote. Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Jay Mello.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Greg
with,
Ronda. Oh, sorry.
Just a caveat saying that I do express concern about the wording of some of the housing and land use implementation.
Greg Ronda.
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you very much.
We
everybody.
appreciate that.
Appreciate all your time and effort.
It's these
Good
folks
job.
right here.
Yeah, yeah, no, you guys did a great job.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
very
We
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Doesn't mean you're off the hook, you know.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's over.
I know. Now it comes back to the council.
Now you're gonna implement
So,
it.
Yeah, we don't have any more
you know,
meetings, right?
Greg, I apologize.
We're in it together.
I meant to comment. You're absolutely right. You know, it's one of our biggest challenges, you know, being as attractive as we are. And don't think, I don't see it from the council level, because it's challenging. And Beth, to your point, one of the things that I'm not kidding, when I say I'll reach back to you after this is finalized, to see what we can do to try to make those communication efforts improved.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good, thank you. Okay.
I'll just add, just a reminder that there is an election coming up in November, right? And perhaps some of you on the master planning committee would love to run the planning board.
Oh.
Awesome.
It's 2 guys that I know.
Rick's like, I've done it, did it.
Yeah.
2 guys I know that have been there. Okay.
But some of our newbies, citizens.
Okay.
That's where I was going
Yeah.
with it.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Amy. All right, we're gonna move on.
Thank you.
Very well.
I know, it's nice to see you in person, Kobe.
Thank you.
think I need to, I think I'm okay. Broken leg.
Nate,
Yes.
we're gonna move on. Public hearing for 124 to 126 Grove Street. They're looking for continuation, I believe.
Yep, to February 24th.
Okay, make a motion to continue 124 to 126 Grove Street till February 24th.
Second. Roll call vote. Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Jay Mello.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
Next item would be a public hearing, and this is gonna be looking for continuation. Again, 488 and 496 Summer Street. Are they getting close, Beth? I mean, Amy, sorry.
Supposedly, I'm told I'm gonna have plans this week, probably not till next week. They did want to be on February 10th, that agenda's full, so
Okay.
I recommended the February 24th.
Okay, so make a motion to
Mr. Chairman, before you make a motion,
Sure.
I would just like to add, if we are continuing this again, they have been on our agenda since, early April of 2024.
That's correct.
I would like to say if they do not come to the meeting in which they are being asked to come to and continuing to, that we either ask them that they withdraw until they're ready to be before us. We're holding up spaces for applicants that are ready. Or if they do not respect that request, then I would ask that we vote on the plans that have been submitted to that point.
Okay.
They need to come in.
Also, just a point of clarification. Is there a time in which the butters can be re-notified of? Yeah, that's the,
It
yeah.
would be
That's
a
why
nice
I'm
courtesy,
asking.
but
Yeah.
no, unfortunately.
No, so they come to the meeting, what is it, February?
24th.
Come to that, tell us where you're at and show us some changes or withdraw.
Yep.
And/or if you don't show up, we'll vote on the plans as submitted.
Second,
All in favor?
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jay Mello.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
Okay. And our last item of business for tonight would be for public hearing, initial public hearing for 164 Grove Street. I make a motion to waive the reading.
Second, Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jay Mello.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yep.
Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
If I could go to Department of Planning to Amy, please, if you could give us a
Sure. Thank you,
rundown.
Mr. Chairman. So this is for a marijuana dispensary located at 164 Grove Street. An approved plan was provided back in November 2nd, 2020. The special permit runs with the owner of the facility of the land. So they are basically here, they want to construct the same exact building that was approved in 2020, same parking, same layout. However, it's going to be new ownership. So they have to come in to file a special permit for change of ownership.
If you gentlemen are part of it, just introduce yourselves for the record, please, if you could.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Dave Chiplinski, and I'm currently owner's representative for CC Lights, who is the current owner of the property. Before I get into some introductions and a little discussion about the job, Mr. Chairman, if you would let me just comment on two things. We are a multiple business operation here in Franklin. There's a reason for that. So we definitely appreciate the due diligence that I saw before me today about the plan of the town. I mean, we enjoy being members of this community, and it's just a great thing to hear the discussion back and forth about all the good points about growth. So as business owners here, we appreciate that. The second thing I'd like to say is Amy Love is a taskmaster, but she definitely was fair in dealing with us and reminded us what we needed to do to be successful here. So we definitely kudos to her, because I understand in an earlier call, I heard things that I just would not believe. So thank you for that. Today, yes, absolutely. She's helped us multiple times. Today we're talking about a project at 624 Grove Street. I'm going to get into the project in a minute. With me tonight is on the phone is Alan Melsky. He's the principal of Interform Design and Architects. They're located in Chicago. I have three staff members, executives of our firm, Rachel, Andrew, and Colin. They're on the phone as well if we have any questions. They're more owners and operation-based, so we can cover anything that you might want to cover. Here today is Meridian Associates. They were our engineers on the project. They were also the engineers on the original project, and that's why we selected them. Also with me tonight, a member of our staff, right, Mr. McCarthy. He is our CCC professional. So, right, anything that we need to know about the CCC is here. As Amy had said, we are resubmitting what was previously approved. We have gone to our neighbors, Planet Fitness. We have something in writing from them. We're going to work together. The access is not a problem. With regard to the facility, and this is a rendering of what we propose, I'm sorry, I'm standing in front of it. There's only really 3 changes to the original plan. I hope I'm not stepping on my feet here, but I do want to be forthright here. So the footprint hasn't changed, utility hasn't changed, stormwater runoff hasn't changed, impervious square footage hasn't changed, square footage of the building hasn't changed, nothing like that at all. We were, by code, we had to add a charging station for an electrical vehicle, so that's one change. This block here, which is our entrance, was in the center of the building. We slid it to the rear or the side of the building. The other thing we added, there's small concrete pads in the back of the building that are for housekeeping measures. Those are the changes that we made. Otherwise, we're submitting what was previously approved, and we can answer any questions that, Mr. Chairman, you might have or your board members might have.
Good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and we went through this in great detail, I remember, in 2020, so yes. But I'll go to the rest of the board first. I'll go to Beth. Beth, any comments or questions?
Nope, same project, different day.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Jay?
I mean, this is already taken care of, but I'm just curious as to how that seems like an awful lot of stormwater for a 1-foot ditch, but it's already been worked out, so whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Mark?
No, and he just answered my question, but so, no, I have no questions, thank you.
Okay. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this, it says retail storefront only. Are you guys vertically integrated? Do you have cultivation elsewhere, or how do you get your product, I guess?
Yes, sir, we do, to answer your question.
You cultivate or you get product elsewhere?
Well, for this facility, we get product elsewhere, but we do cultivate.
Not
Understood, okay.
2 doors down.
there. 2 doors,
Perfect.
at 160 Grove Street.
That's right, sir.
That was my next question.
Understood. Thank you very much.
All set, Chris?
Yes, thank you.
Jen?
Thanks. Through the chair, my question is, did the volume that is essentially the vestibule or the entry shift to the plan east? I guess
This would be south. I'm sorry, yes, south.
southeast, yeah.
Right, so this is the north side of the building, this is the west side of the building.
Yeah, there we go, okay. And are there, are the main entry doors on the actual southeast side of that vestibule and, like, on both sides of that bump out? Are there doors on both sides?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, all right, that's all. I just wanted to confirm the location of the doors respective to their relationship to the handicap parking in particular. So there's doors, but then there's also doors on the backside. Okay, thank you for confirming, that's
But
all.
also we're required to have a certain flow
Mm-hmm.
for CCC purposes in and out and security.
Yep. Appreciate you coming so well prepared and, yeah, that looks great, thanks.
Thank you for that.
I just had one quick question. What size housekeeping pads you plan on putting out back? Anything of substance? I recollect
Those
there's
are-
already a sidewalk back there. I just.
Yeah, there's already a sidewalk, but since these 3, I think it's probably a total of like 60 square feet of concrete.
Okay, it's not gonna impede the travel lane or anything such?
No.
It's a planted area in the back, and
Okay.
there's an exit door back there, so we needed pad just for some equipment and housekeeping.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else, anyone else going out in land, Zoom land? Okay. So I guess I'll make a motion to approve.
Close the public hearing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay, yeah. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Nobody out in the public hearing?
No.
No comment.
No, I don't see anybody.
Yeah, nobody,
No. Make a,
second. Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Beth Worley.
Yep.
Greg Rondo,
yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
Oh, sure.
Special permit
Yeah,
criteria?
I gotta, yeah.
Make a motion to Oh, approve the site plan and special permit as submitted.
Second, and this is for a special permit for a non-medical retail marijuana facility under 185 Attachment 3, Part 2, Section 2.23. The proposed project addresses or is consistent with neighborhood or town need. Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes. Jay Millo.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Vehicular traffic flow, access, and parking and pedestrian safely are properly addressed. Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Public roadways, drainage, utilities, and other infrastructure are adequate or will be upgraded to accommodate development. Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Neighborhood character and social structure will not be negatively impacted. Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yep.
Jen Williams, yes. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Project will not destroy or cause substantial damage to any environmentally significant natural resource, habitat, or feature, or, if it will, proposed mitigation, remediation, replication, or compensatory measures are adequate. Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Number, height, bulk, location, and siting of buildings and structures will not result in abutting properties being deprived of light or fresh air circulation or being exposed to flooding or subjected to excessive noise, odor, light, vibrations, or airborne particulates. Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Water consumption and sewer use, taking into consideration current and projected future local water supply and demand and wastewater treatment capacity, will not be excessive. Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
And finally, the proposed use will not have adverse effects which overbalance its beneficial effects on either the neighborhood or the town in view of the particular characteristics of the site and of the proposal in relation to that site. Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney, yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Sorry. All right.
Just want to make sure we had the general notes 1 through 3 from department.
Oh, where was that? Sorry. Okay. These aren't general conditions. They're not
Not
conditions.
conditions or anything, no,
No,
that's just an
wanted to make sure that
overview.
was acknowledged.
It's just an overview, yep.
When do you guys plan on starting construction?
Yes, ma'am, we would like to start as soon as it warms up. You get a permit.
Great.
You're all set.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Board members, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Amy, Love, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank
You
you.
too.
This is Andrew. Thank you guys very, very much. Really
Thank-
appreciate it.
You're welcome,
Thanks.
thank you. Nice when you come prepared, right? Makes it easier sometimes.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second, Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Jay Mello.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
I guess.
Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, everybody.
I just need
Yep.
Greg's signature. So I think I need.
So, yeah.